Yet another voice memo has been unredacted in the Blake Lively Justin Baldoni case. And when you hear this one next to the context of the other texts, oh my goodness, Blake, you're terrible. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. More docket entries are still filtering out, and shout out over there to docketupdates.com. Go support Carol over there. And Clark on Reddit, who keeps going to the courthouse to get these larger files that Wayfarer couldn't put on the official docket. And we got a new voice memo, this time from Justin, that I want to play with for you because it gives a lot more insight of what the relationship was before it went south. And when you package it between the text message,
the disturbing voice memo exposed a comparison straight out of Game of Thrones, one that sounded less like a friendly metaphor and more like a veiled threat disguised as loyalty. Blake Lively portrayed herself as a Khaleesi, proudly claiming her dragons not merely as supporters, but as powerful forces ready to defend anyone she chose to stand behind. For Justin Baldoni, the message was unmistakable: align with her creative vision or risk being burned by it. This wasn't a
and we got a new voice memo, this time from Justin, that I want to play with for you because it gives a lot more insight of what the relationship was before it went south. And when you package it between the text message that we previously had, man, it shows the manipulation level of Blake Lively, in my opinion. That well, you tell me what you think. Let's go through it in order, okay? So this was on April 8th, 2023, before production began. I can send you my Pass the Roof or just read it with you when we're together next week. Let me know what you prefer. If you knew me in person longer, you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. We've read this previously, but it never ceases to amaze me. It's my love language, spicy and playful.
Simple collaboration. It felt like the opening shot in a battle for artistic authority. Her words carried an intensity that revealed a calculated ambition to dominate the film's creative direction from the very beginning. And according to the court filings, this was only a glimpse of the intense power struggle unfolding behind the scenes. Even before the dramatic Khaleesi,
you'd have a sense of how flirty and yummy the ball busting would play. We've read this previously, but it never ceases to amaze me. It's my love language, spicy and playfully bold, never with teeth. But this is the woman that got offended when he said, "You look sexy." Oh my God. And him serving it back to her is just as important. You don't usually see both the man and the woman with such agency and humor. Anyway, I can act it out for you next week to make sure it comes through, or I can just send it now. Let me know what you prefer. Kisses, XX. I can act it out for you next week. S, kisses, kisses. How does Justin reply? Well, if you've been following, you know, he replied.
The comparison. The tone of their interaction had already taken an unusual turn. Blake initiated contact with a text laced with playful, slightly provocative humor. She described her love language as bold, spicy, and teasing, something she framed as playful, ball-busting banter. This message seemed less like a standard professional introduction and more like a deliberate test of boundaries.
For kisses, XX, I can act it out for you next week. S, kisses, kisses. How does Justin reply? Well, if you've been following, you know, he replied by, "Sorry, was crying my eyes out as my kids and my family just left for another 5 weeks, and it was a S show. Heartbreak, heartbreak, heartbreak." And so, yes, he's not focused at all on her ball busting, flirty kisses. He doesn't care about any of it. He's bawling his eyes out as his family's about to leave him for 5 weeks. Blake's made a point of anytime he can't see Ryan for 2 weeks, she loses it too. So just kind of hilarious. That was his priorities, not flirting with Blake. And I'm sure she wasn't liking that. And then he does reply, yes, it's important to...
Sent well before filming began, it set an unconventional tone that hinted at something beyond a purely business relationship. The approach appeared designed to disarm Justin and establish a distinct personal dynamic, one that could potentially give her greater influence later. Justin's response to her flirtatious tone could not have been more different.
If a woman like you could fall into that relationship, then anyone could, and the more we love them, the more devastating Act 3 is. I'm brilliant, he's right. Thank you for saying all that, and I couldn't agree with more about Act 3. That's the mission. So they're like all aligned before things happen. And then I guess it's a photo of them leaving. That photo is devastating. So sorry if you're all love is, but the love is gargantuan and apparent. Yeah, it sure is. And you're destroying him and his family. Thank you for saying all this. Literally thousands of tape down the group of guys, young lilies, reading them 5, blah, blah. Anyway, little wow, so exciting. More emojis, things like that. So here, after that exchange, here is this new voice memo that Justin sent Blake. Let's listen together.
Hey, sorry, I couldn't get my voice memo.
Instead of engaging with the playful energy, he revealed that he was in a deeply emotional state. He explained that he had been crying my eyes out after saying goodbye to his children and family, who had just left for 5 weeks. The separation had left him overwhelmed with sadness and longing. In that moment, playful teasing was the last thing on his mind. His focus was entirely on
I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned, and I will bring everything I have to this. Now, here's where it gets the response. As for Taylor and Ryan and Sean Levy, for that matter, I'm the luckiest mother effer on the planet to have them as my dance mom, stage level moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch, and I'm the person they each go to first. My God. The reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. Over your kids? When they loved and signed off on the pages, I felt good to send them to you. Notice how she's setting it up, this whole buildup of, yeah, these are amazing people. They're my everything. Not only
coping with the emotional weight of his family's absence. This stark disconnect between their emotional states would become a recurring issue, suggesting that Blake's approach failed to acknowledge the personal challenges Justin was dealing with at the time. Despite the emotional strain he was experiencing, Justin continued to communicate in a professional manner. He still expressed enthusiasm about the project.
Blake, clearly this isn't a manipulation tactic that you're planting early to get control later, but I digress. It's more the principle that of the dynamics at play. They've watched the other side of it too, where I'm told at signing that I'm wanted as a true collaborator, but once we get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man audience actor. This is funny because you also admit you sign on and then you lie and then you become someone who takes over the movie. Interesting how the truth comes out. Later, both Ryan and Taylor have established themselves as absolute titans as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gigs, just singing and or acting, or Sean just directing. So lucky to have them as creative barometers. Notice she's dropping it again. You're going not only against me, but all of them, and they know what they're doing.
And confirmed that he agreed with Blake's perspective on filming. He emphasized that they shared the same goal for the character Lily, imagining her as strong, witty, playful, and fearless. At that early stage, the possibility of genuine collaboration still seemed within reach. Both appeared to be united by the desire to create a compelling character and deliver a successful film. Justin believed they were aligned creatively, unaware that this apparent harmony would soon be disrupted by Blake's increasingly forceful pursuit of influence.
More, I'm just going to tell you, and I'm going to take charge. I guess she did warn him. And here it comes. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that Khaleesi, who, spoiler alert, kind of was a villain in the movie. Turns out, kind of. Like her, I happen to have a few dragons, for better or worse, but usually for better. Because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too. I can promise. Khaleesi, it's hard. You're rooting for Khaleesi. It's hard. It's more complicated. Those of you know what, her story is more important than everybody else. And some agreed with her.
Justin later sent a voice memo intended to reconnect after a delay in communication. In it, he apologized for taking about 24 hours to respond, explaining that he had simply needed time to act like a normal person after his family's departure. He admitted he had spent time with friends to distract himself from the emotional difficulty of being apart from them. This moment revealed a director trying to balance personal grief with the pressures of a demanding production schedule. It was a glimpse of his humanity, something Blake appeared unwilling to fully acknowledge. His sincere apology demonstrated that even during personal hardship, he remained committed to maintaining professionalism. In that same voice memo, Justin offered genuine praise for Blake's involvement in the project. He openly acknowledged her passion for the creative process, complimenting the enthusiasm she brought to the table. He also expressed appreciation for her ideas and collaborative spirit, remarking that it was genuinely cool to see someone care so deeply about the work. Rather than dismissing her contributions, he framed them as refreshing, especially compared to situations where actors remain detached from the creative side of filmmaking. His words were meant as encouragement, an effort to nurture a supportive partnership. At the time, he had no idea that his compliment would later be reframed and used against him. Justin also made it clear that any script-related suggestions would involve his established creative team. He mentioned bringing in Christie, his writer, explaining that new ideas would naturally be reviewed and incorporated through the collaborative writing process already in place. This wasn't a rejection of Blake's suggestions, it was simply a description of how development typically works on a film project. What seemed like a routine professional explanation at the time would later become a point of conflict. Blake interpreted his statement as an attempt to sidestep her own rewritten script, turning what was meant as transparency into a perceived slight. The turning point came when Blake took Justin's sincere compliment, his appreciation for her passion, and reframed it in a completely different light. She responded by saying his praise didn't feel good for me or them, implying that his words had somehow minimized her specific contributions. What had been intended as supportive feedback was suddenly portrayed as dismissive. This shift transformed a positive remark into a perceived offense, signaling that simple acknowledgement of her enthusiasm was not enough. She appeared to be seeking full validation of her rewritten material. To reinforce her position, Blake quickly invoked several high-profile names from the entertainment industry. She claimed that Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and Sean Levy, people she described as her most trusted collaborators, had already approved the pages from her revised script. Mentioning these influential figures served as more than casual bragging. It functioned as a strategic pressure tactic. By presenting her work as already endorsed by powerful industry players, she created the impression that rejecting her version would place Justin in opposition to a formidable group. She then shifted the narrative further by portraying herself as someone who had previously been mistreated within the industry. Blake described past experiences where her writing contributions had allegedly been overlooked, or where she had been forced to surrender credit despite her involvement. According to her account, she had often been treated as a simple yes person rather than a creative partner. This story seemed crafted to generate sympathy and perhaps guilt, suggesting that Justin might repeat those same injustices if he didn't fully embrace her script. The irony, however, was that she simultaneously claimed she didn't care about receiving credit. Observers later noted how this type of statement can function as a classic negotiation tactic, publicly downplay the importance of recognition while privately maneuvering for influence and control. In hindsight, that early claim appeared misleading, especially as her push for authority over the script became increasingly aggressive. Blake continued reinforcing her position by referencing her so-called dragons again, Ryan, Taylor, and Sean, explaining that they weren't merely friends, but trusted creative advisors who supported her and ensured her voice was heard. She emphasized their reputation and respect within the entertainment world, subtly warning that dismissing their collective approval would be unwise. The repeated name-dropping intensified the pressure she was applying. Her comparison to the Khaleesi character was no longer a light-hearted reference. In context, it began to sound more like a declaration. She aligned herself with the Game of Thrones figure known for wielding immense power and eventually embracing ruthless authority. Her dragons, she said, didn't just defend her, they protected those she fought for. The implication extended beyond herself, suggesting anyone opposing her vision might face consequences. What sounded like playful pop culture imagery carried an unmistakable, intimidating undertone. Observers later pointed out how unsettling this comparison was. She wasn't merely referencing a strong female character, she seemed to embrace the darker, more tyrannical aspects of that persona. Within the broader context of the conversation, the Khaleesi metaphor came across less as humor and more as a warning about how far she was willing to go to secure the outcome she wanted. Justin's immediate response reflected surprise and an attempt to calm the situation. He replied simply with, wow, thank you for writing, before explaining why his response had taken time. The message suggested someone trying to process an overwhelming flood of emotion and strategy while still maintaining professionalism. Rather than escalating the tension, he appeared focused on keeping the conversation constructive. Later that night, he sent another voice memo, one that critics would later mock for its rambling tone. In reality, it seemed to reveal a director attempting to reassure an increasingly intense collaborator. He spoke in a calming manner, trying to convey that everything would work out and that there was no reason for concern. The message sounded less like someone asserting authority and more like someone trying to stabilize a delicate situation. His efforts highlighted the pressure he was under. Instead of confronting the aggressive tone directly, he tried to diffuse it with reassurance and optimism. This approach suggested a leader attempting to keep peace within a complicated working relationship, rather than someone dictating terms. Looking back, the overall exchange revealed a pattern in Blake's approach. From the very beginning, her tactics appeared layered, starting with playful flirtation, shifting to emotional storytelling, and eventually escalating to direct intimidation backed by influential allies. Each step seemed carefully designed to establish leverage and secure creative dominance. Justin, by contrast, was described as a relatively new director focused on storytelling and collaboration. He welcomed her enthusiasm and never outright told her to stop proposing ideas. While this openness might normally strengthen a creative partnership, in this case it may have left him vulnerable. His willingness to consider different perspectives could easily be interpreted as an opportunity to push further. At the heart of the situation was the way Blake reframed Justin's supportive feedback, combined with her strategic use of powerful names and dramatic metaphors. These elements worked together to create an atmosphere where her authority over the script seemed inevitable. What began as a discussion about creative ideas gradually evolved into a contest of influence. The leaked messages ultimately painted a troubling picture, not simply a disagreement between collaborators, but a complex struggle over control. Blake's actions, from playful overtures to bold warnings cloaked in pop culture symbolism, suggested a determination to shape the project entirely according to her vision. In the end, the story extended beyond a single film. It illustrated how power dynamics within high-stakes creative partnerships can quietly escalate, with persuasion, influence, and psychological pressure becoming tools in the battle for control. What looked like collaboration on the surface began to resemble something far more calculated, a takeover of the narrative itself.